Kayak anglers of the internet, welcome back to the Advanced Kayak Angler Podcast with myself, Dan Perry, and my co-host, Kurt Smitty Smits. What's up, man?
Man, I've just been out fishing the past couple days. Work's been really slow, so I was able to get out.
Just stripers for days, huh? Do you even fish for largemouth?
Well, I haven't recently, because it's either been smallmouth on some of the rivers around here, on the smaller rivers around here, or I've been going down to the Ohio. It's just been really good this year on the Ohio. It's hard not to go. I've been going to a couple different places, and man, it's just like they're all good right now, so it's like hard not to go.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, tonight we're we have a series. We had AJ. Was it who did we have on from Hobie?
They had AJ on.
Was it AJ? Okay, yeah. So we're doing this with all the different kayak brands. We're going to go through each of the major kayak brands, give them all their own love, and talk about how some people from the team or from the company, and talk about all the different kayaks in the lineup, what kind of niches they fit, why you'd want to have them, the pluses and minuses each one, because they're like a minivan isn't fast and a Ferrari can't hold a bunch of stuff. So no kayak is made to do everything. Some are more in the middle, some are really niche. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And to do that, we have two people from the Bonafide team. We have Matt Sowders from the Catch podcast and Jenson, Mr. Fluke Master himself. What's up, fellas?
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Yeah, appreciate y'all being on. Everybody knows who y'all are. If you haven't listened to the Catch podcast, please do. And Jenson, if you don't follow his YouTube, you're crazy, because I don't know how many times I've watched your videos over the years. I'm one of those people that have got a tremendous amount from your YouTube page. So thank you for everything that you do, man.
I think everybody has, really.
Yeah.
I was about to
there's
say,
always some techniques you don't know that somebody else is better at, and Gene is better at most. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, even in the Marine Corps, man, I was just watching videos, just get the day going, just in the bricks. Yeah, man. It's if you're in this sport, you know who the Fluke Master is, and you probably learned something.
I did stay at Holiday Inn Express last night, so we're good.
There you go. And then you went out and caught him today, so see, it worked.
Yeah, actually, no, I stay on my rooftop tent. So.
How do you like that? You have what is it? I remember I watched your video on it.
It's a FSR Odyssey. It's a couple of years old. I probably have a good 120 nights in it, and I love it. I absolutely love it, because I can throw it up anywhere. It takes just a few minutes, but it's better than it. It's one of those things where I was a Sky Master for 25 years, so camping's no big deal, and I've got it rigged up to where it stays cool, and it's just a fun, quick way to camp, and it's a lot cheaper too. So.
Yeah, for real. Well, we'll have to have you back on and talk about camping, because I usually don't go in the summer because I can't handle that heat, man.
Yeah, it can get miserable.
Yeah, for real. All right, I'm more of a fair weather camper in the family. we glamp out in the tent,
Mm-hmm.
But all right, while we have y'all on tonight, let's talk about Bonafide Kayaks. So let me go ahead and bring up that screen here. There we go. So Bonafide, they obviously have a lot of different kayaks. I'll give the rundown: the X123, Rise 117, SS 107, SS 127. I had that one. P127, RVR 119, SKF 117, which is one I'd like to know more about. The PWR 129, newer, and obviously the big talk of the town, the XTR 130. So I guess we can start down here on the bottom. Start out with the lightest one, the Expedition 123. So who wants to start out? Who wants to start talking about that one?
Matt, go ahead and start with that if you've had one. I've had one, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I've been in them. I've never owned it, but I've done a couple just trips through Loveland, my shop that I fish for, and I've gone up and down the river there. It's a great little boat. A perfect sit in to mine. It's not even a little boat. It's 12 foot long, super comfortable. It's, to me, like, this is the boat you take. We have a couple guys like Kurt's probably seen them around that like to do a lot of long floats on like the Little Miami and stuff, where they'll go camp and everything like that. And this is like that, one of the most perfect boats for it, because you can just kind of take your time and paddle out of it. It's actually a really good sit-in fishing platform, but you have plenty of places to keep all your gear like dry and things. So I mean, it's a great little boat.
Can I interrupt you just for just a second here?
Yeah.
You said it's a comfortable sit-in.
Yeah.
I mean, because usually the words comfortable fishing kayak and sit-in usually don't go hand in hand. So it's like really interesting to hear about this kayak that even though it is a sit-in, that it's a comfortable.
Yeah, most people's like experience in sit-in kayaks, when we all know, is like the Pelicans you see at Walmart and other shops like that. That their sit-in seat is a piece of foam that has a like burned in brand, and that's what it is. So obviously, most people's thought process is like this. Oh, I've been in it. My back hurt or whatever. No, I mean Bonafide. Every seat they make is leaps and bounds above that. And when you get a sit in, it kind of fits. Like I had degenerative disc disease in my back and my hips are all jacked up. When I sit in this, it like just gives me the support I need. Believe me, I didn't think that. I thought just like you. I was like, it's a sit in. I like it. It might paddle great and it has all this room, but my back's gonna be screaming. Now, I mean, I was in it for like 6 or 7 hours and I felt fine. Like I put a kayak cushion just about everything I own just because I need a little bit more support just because my hips are all jacked up. But even without it, like I wasn't in so much discomfort. I was like, I got to get off the water. Like I had zero problem at all with it. So yeah, super comfortable sit in.
Yeah,
paddles really well, huh?
Yeah, because it's so light, it paddles like a dream. It really does.
Oh, yeah.
My kids loved it. It's one of those that you can take out on a creek and paddle it around and drag it over things and beat the snot out of it.
Yep.
You can stand up in it. It's one of the few sit-ins that you can comfortably stand up and fish out of. And it's just a fun little boat. If you have to car top it or truck top a kayak, this is one that I would recommend because you can pick it up and throw it on top of the boat or on top of the truck, no problem.
A 375-pound weight rating too.
And only 67 pounds with the seat, so it's right. It's a throw and go if you're a decent sized person.
I mean, it's no, especially with all the like the benefits you get from it. I mean, like Gene was saying, you can drag it over anything, just beat the crap out of it, and the boat will not let you down. Like that's what I thought was awesome about it is a lot of these places that for river fishing. Again, Kurt would know just because you're from roundabout same area. We've probably fished a lot of the same water. Some of that spot like can be rough if you have a bigger boat. You're just either not fishing it or you're putting in 6 miles upstream and floating down to it. With something like this, man, it's throw a rogue drag strap or NRS strap on the front and just start walking. And I mean, unless you run into something that's designed to break this, it's good. I mean, the one time I did it was with a demo boat and I was like, I'm going to go put in a little bit farther up and roll down to the shop. And I went up a little further up and I ran it into like 6 trees as I just had the NRS strap and drug it behind me. And it was just bouncing off stuff. It was fine. Drug over rocks. I mean, it's a great boat to, like you said, that throw and go boat that still gives you all the, accessory points and the rod holders and things to where you can, and a sit-in you can stand in. Like that's not heard of unless you're, a tightrope walker. So
I guess some of the comparisons would be what the Wilderness Commander, I think that's it, and the Jackson Kilroy / Tripper, I think. So it's
that's kind of what I would compare it to.
Yeah,
except it's actually it's more stable than the Kilroy. I've been in the Kilroy, and it's quite a bit more stable than Kilroy. The only drawback that I have had with this one in particular is you have to make sure that seat's strapped down, or it's going to come out trailering. It's going to come out, So it's one of those things, and it's kind of a tricky strap. That's my only complaint about the whole thing is they could have done a little bit better with where they position the straps to strap that seat down. But
I mean that's a small problem.
Yeah, very small. Very small. But I'm forgetful. You just got to remember to strap it
down.
Yeah. Okay, so good. Like here in Alabama, I think like going over shoals, you've got that special spot you want to be to. You want to only carry 2 rods, easy paddling, throw and go over the shoals and get to that spot where other people can't go. Or like a good buddy boat, a good like big kid boat, a big wife boat, things like that. So
it's a good overnighter boat too.
Yeah, if you can have 3 boats, you can have a big boat and maybe like a in between boat, and then this be like really your throw and go. If you have room for 3 boats, this could definitely fit in your lineup too.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Cool. Good kayak. Bonafide really like super impressive. I know the SS 127 that I owned, I got it before I had to order it off from ACK because I had to pre-order it before they even came out. And yeah, Bonafide, just ever since then, they've been doing great things and really super innovative. So yeah, y'all are definitely with a good company here.
It's
Oh, mine
old Mr. Hans Newts, the
Yeah.
brain. If you guys you need to just if you haven't ever had him on the show or talked to him, reach out. He loves doing shows and just ask him. You don't even have to talk about Bonafide. Just ask him about kayak design. Man, he's like one of those Jeff Littles, those Gene Jensons. Like there's so much information that you don't even know that's out there, and he'll just tell you, and you'll leave the show probably more confused than you were before, but you've learned more than you've ever thought. Like we have Hans on in the catch like once a year at least, and every time he comes on, and since joining the team, I'll talk to him. Every time I talk to him, I learn something, but I'm also confused by like 30 more things. So he's one of those guys, man. He's got designs for days he just makes up in his head, and it turns out to be a great boat.
Yep. Big brains. Big brains.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, next we have up is the the Rise 117. Tell us about that one. So this one's a little bit of a step up. It's a sit on, not a sit in. Yeah. What else should we know about it?
Think of it as just the sit on top version of the sit inside is basically the way I see it. Am I wrong saying it was their first sub $100 or sub $1,000 kayak was what the goal of it was?
Yes,
Of course,
you're
now
correct.
the economy the way it is, I think it's a little more than 1,000.
1,049 now.
Yeah, 1049.
Exactly. And so that was to fit a price point is what it was. And so they built the best kayak they could for that price point, and they just if you compare it to an SS, which we'll do it in a minute, but it just has fewer bells and whistles to keep it at that price point was what it was. Great paddling boat, turns on a dime. The seat's a little bit lower than the SS. I think it's a 5 or 6 inch seat.
5 inch.
It's just 5 inch seat, and so it's just a lot of fun to paddle, and I call it my excursion boat.
Yeah, so I had the RS as my main boat for about 1.5 years or more, and I I had everyone tell me it's before I was on the team and everything. I had an XI3 on the front of it. I had live scope on it. I had 2 finders on it at one point. Like it got shared. I remember it got shared to the Bonafide page, and it was like, is this the most tricked out RS that we've ever seen? And what's like cool, like it's excursion boat for like Gene, like to go do cool stuff. And for me, it was my do everything boat. Like I would take the XI3 off and run the river with it, just like the EX all day long, and just run it into stuff. It paddled great. Again, super comfortable seat, super comfortable boat. It doesn't have like the standard Bonafide dry pod, but you do have a dry pod in the front. You can put your stuff and then that cover up front. But it did everything I ever needed it to do. Like I could take this on. I mean, I took this on real big water with the XI3 and it handled it fine. And then I took it on some of the skinniest creeks you could find, and again, it handled fine. Super shallow running boat. And it's like Gene said, it's kind of the stripped down version, the in between of the EX and the SS, but it has plenty of platform to make that boat do whatever you want it to do. Like you want to add tracks everywhere, like I did, do it. I mean, I had 12 rods on that boat at one point. Dang. So I mean, it would do everything.
And with a 425-pound capacity, it's not like it's a slouch where you can't bring what you want. I mean, it's definitely a kayak that you can load up, and then only being 77 pounds, it's it's still 11 feet 7 inches, so it's like a good, capable all-around boat, and definitely a beginner boat, like y'all were saying. Like if that's a way you want to go with it, you can either go, not the sit inside, but the sit on top, like you were saying, the excursion, taking it some shallow water places, or you can load this, like Matt was saying, you can load it up too.
Yeah, 77 pounds. I feel like, again, this is another boat that you could that maybe not every single person could car top, but I think a lot of people could car top that boat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how I did it. I mean, I had a 2-door Jeep with a roof rack, and I would just throw it up there. And I mean, I never had much issue. I mean, my wife has loaded that for me. I mean, it's light enough to be able to do all that, but it's still got enough weight to it to where it can handle some bigger stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to handle the biggest stuff in the world, but I put it in some sketchy situations to where I thought I was going to die, and the boat didn't let me down. So,
And it might be a more stripped down boat that's, a price point boat. But I mean, you still have 3 gear tracks there, 2 rod holders, a comfortable seat. So it's not like it it might not have all the bells and whistles, but it's definitely not so, not so budget minded that it doesn't have what you need on it either.
Yeah, and Hans also designed it to where it had a lot of flat places to be able to add gear tracks to it too.
yep.
So you can upgrade and things like that. That was that, and again, that was just to keep it at that price point.
And
And there's something to be said about a stripped down boat, and being able to set it up exactly how you want it, I mean, that's coming from someone who likes to do that stuff, though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you say it's stripped down, but as I look at it, I don't feel like when I look at it, I don't feel like I'm going. When I look at it, I don't feel that it's stripped down.
Right.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's got a ton of, like Gene said, a ton of flat spots. But when we say stripped down, I mean, like Gene's in a PWR, my big lake boat's a PWR, or my RVR, my river boat. It comes with your rear tracks. It comes pretty much set up. There's some spots obviously to add more, but like this just has those standard front tracks. And if you don't want to add anything else, it's pretty much there. It's ready out of the box to give you the basic necessities. But those flat spots around the boat, I mean, I had probably more inches of track on that than I had on my PWR I have now. Like I just put them everywhere because there's flat spots everywhere, and I had room to put everything. So
what about motoring? Is it capable to put? I mean, you obviously had a motor on the bow. Can you put one on the stern as well? Are there plates or anything you can do with that?
So you can do it. A guy on our team, Steve, he was just at the Kayak Adventure Series tournament, won the team tournament for the shop. So shout out to old Steve. He's got a Torpedo 1103 on the back of his, and thing rips. I mean, it just rips. I mean, at one point he said, now granted they were in like a monsoon. I think Hurricane Debbie was going through when they were running the tournament, but he was going downstream on the Susky at like 11.5 miles an hour. So like the thing, it's like it's a 9.9 on the back of that thing. Like it rips. So yeah, you can definitely motorize it on the rear. But it's set up to do whatever you want. I call this, like when I'm talking to customers about it and they have questions, I call it the dream boat, because you got a dream, you can make it happen on this platform. If you don't have like a huge budget, it's something you can build on down the road.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's move on to the next one. And this is where I'm going to have some questions with the overlap of the Skiff, the SS-107, and the RS-117. Like, if you're going to tell somebody, we'll go through each one first, but I guess that's going to be a question that I have, is how you decide which one to choose. So on the SS-107, it's 10 feet 7 inches, 34.5 inches wide, 84 pounds with the seat, 75 without. 425-pound capacity. The deck height is 15.5, so it's still pretty low. It's not going to catch too much wind. So tell us about that one.
So the SS is it's the same exact size cockpit as the 127. So the 107 is the same size cockpit. It's just shorter, 1 foot shorter on the front and 1 foot shorter on the back is the difference between the SS top side, difference between the SS or the 127 and the 107. If you look at that side shot, that side view of the 107, it's got a little bit of rocker in it. In other words, it's got about 1.5 inches that rise on the front of the bottom of the boat and a little 1.5 inches that rise to the back. And so it turns really easy. And when Hans designed this, he designed it with that little bit extra rocker so it could be like a river boat before he came out with the RVR. It could be one of those that was very maneuverable and small and can get places and be car topped easy. And it was a neck down version of a 127 is what it was. and it's very stable. It's a little bit more tippy than the 127 because of that rocker, but it's still, my fat butt can sit side saddle when I was on that thing pretty easy. So
Great colors too in all the kayaks. That's definitely a strong suit of Bonafide. All the colors y'all have are just bangers.
Need to bring back Canyon. Canyon
Yes.
is where it was at. Oh, it's such a good color, man.
I'm trying to get them to do a red and black one, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah, we don't need to give Georgia too much love. They got number one, so just leave them alone
put a
for
little
now.
gray in there, and I'll be fine with it. I just want something red and black. But yeah, the 107 is it's a fun little paddle boat. It was my teenager's boat. You know, if you need to get one for your kids and you want a really good quality one for your, teenagers and on up, and one that they can keep, up until in through their 20s, that'd be it. That'd be it. What I got. So my kids loved it.
Yeah, I was about to say, my wife actually has an SS 107. That's what she takes out when we go on river trips. The reason I got her that over my RS, like she was in my RS for a little bit, but the reason we went with the 107 is just because it has a little bit more stability, obviously, over the RS, but it still handles great. I mean, I've taken this on floats and I can turn on a dime. RS paddles at least in my experience, paddles a little bit better, tracks a little bit better, but you're kind of getting rid of I'm not saying it tracks terribly, the RS tracks a little bit better, but you're kind of giving that up for the stability and the comfortability. So this has the renowned SS seat. I mean, it's like in my opinion, I've been in almost every boat, the most comfortable kayak seat you could ever put your butt in on the water. And you get all that great stability from the SS series. Like Gene said, not as stable as the 127, but I mean, it's really close. I mean, you can stand up in this. I mean, she doesn't listen to this. So, I mean, my wife's kind of a klutz. And I've watched her walk around, turn around, standing up in this boat, and she was fine. Plus you get the dry pod. So it makes running electronics even easier. You can protect your transducer and take it off, especially if you travel. It's perfect to have a, fish finder on it. Gene's done plenty of videos and walkthroughs of how to do it, and you can take it right out and walk in the hotel room with you, and you don't have to worry about someone running off with your electronics. I mean, it's little stuff like that was in there, plus full, front hatch accessibility to get the inside of the boat. And then you have your rear plate, and again, all those flat spots around the boat to mount tracking wherever you want to mount it. So
I do have to say the SS 127 I had, not only was the seat comfortable, but that was probably like the most riggable boat I've ever had with the gear pod and everything. I mean, it's just it's made to go crazy, which, I mean, you can watch any of Gene's videos and see that he's went crazy.
Well, every time you hover over the shop upgrades and accessories, his boat pops up.
Yeah,
there's a reason.
Red boat.
Great website, by the way. I mean,
yeah, they've done a good job. They've done a lot of good upgrades lately.
Me and Gene will take all the credit for it.
Higher on this boat?
Say again?
Is the seat higher on this boat than the last one?
Yeah, it's 10 inches high.
Yes. 10 inches.
Yep.
So it's double. Last one was 5, right?
Yeah, it is the closest. It's pretty comparable to the Hobie seat. It just doesn't have the arms and stuff like that. So, and it sits a little higher than the Hobie, but you wouldn't notice it unless you had a lot of seat time in boat.
Yep.
So.
And still only $1,400, and sometimes you can find a sale, but it's still a great price too, great value.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
a great, you can get into a boat for under $2,000. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with, if you want a motor and paddle, like you don't want to pedal, it's hard to argue that Bonafide isn't making some of the best paddle motor boats out there for sure.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, let's move up to the OG, the SS 127. I had a grit back in the day, one of the first ones. Tell us, it is, I'll go over the stats here, but it is, I passed it.
Yep.
12'7", 33 3/4 inches wide, 69 pounds. Fully rigged is 94 with the seat and all that. Deck height 15.5 and capacity 475, which you can push that, as we've seen Gene do. But tell us about it.
Oh, it is an amazing boat. I was fortunate enough, even though I used to be with Jackson, I was on the Jackson team, but I got to mess around with the very first prototype of the 127, and it was clunky, it was heavy, it was everything that it's not now. But it was really, really neat to see them design that, and see Hans work and stuff like that. And that was my introduction to his design work. But it is one of those things that if you love to rig a boat, even if you don't, it paddles okay. It's still kind of, once you get it going, once you get it started, it's like a barge. Once you get it started, you can paddle it pretty good. And I put in as many as 8 to 12 miles a day paddling it back before I got motors. But if you love to rig a boat, it's one of those that you can just do whatever you want to with. Put a motor on the front, put a motor on the back, or like me, put one on each end. And you can put as much electronics on there. My philosophy was I wasn't going to let them weigh it because I didn't want to know how much it weighed. But all I know is that it floated and it still went fairly fast. So it was just a lot of fun to fish out of. And I liked it because it had enough room to store all of my stuff and my camera gear and just a lot of attachment points and things like that. And I really didn't worry at all about having issues with it. It was just a fun boat to fish out of.
Super dry hull too. I can't remember ever having any water in the hull at all.
Yeah, I mean, you'd get some with a boat wake coming by and splash over and stuff like that. One in about 5 or 6 you'd get a more water than most of the other ones. But if you were lucky enough to not get that 1 out of 6, then it was pretty good. But you get that 1 out of 6 where we'd get a little bit more water than the other ones, and that's just because I've owned several of them and I kind of was able to compare them all. But yeah, just splash over, it comes up under the hatch. But one of the things I do is I always keep a sponge in the front of all my kayaks, and it absorbs that water, and then I can just and then I just, when I get out off the water, use that to get the water out of any kayak, doesn't matter what it is.
I left the plugs out of my Hobie one day, and now I carry a sponge and a pump because I damn near sank it.
Yeah.
If I hadn't
Kurt, how
gotten
many
to the
times have you
bank,
done that?
Yeah. More times than I'd care to admit.
Well, in Gunnersville, if I hadn't gotten to the bank, I would have lost it.
Yeah, I think we've all forgotten to put the plugs in the Hobie.
Yeah. So this is surprisingly, it's the OG boat. Everyone gets introduced to Bonafide this way. I've never owned an SS 127. I've been in one twice, but I've never owned it. So Brad Hicks, the co-host, obviously Dan knows Brad, Kurt knows Brad. I'm sure Gene spoke to Brad probably once or twice. He had an SS 127. When I moved back from North Carolina, I was in an Ascend at this point. I know, taboo word, but I was in an Ascend because I got it for cheap. Got it for like $200 on base to a dude who just needed money for beer. And he had his SS. We were on the river. He had an XI3 on it, and he was like, "Yeah, you get in it, see how you like it." And I got in it, and it was, well, this is what a kayak should feel like, type of thing. Super comfortable boat. I've never had, like Gene said, I mean, it paddles okay. Once you get it going, it's just the getting it going. It's like a 70s Buick. It's once it gets rolling, it's not going to stop, and you don't have to work so hard, but tons of room for everything. The motor ability of this boat, you can, rear mast, bow mount, you can do a stern mount, whatever you want to do. Throw, like Gene's boat has the power poles. You can throw that on there at the same time. I mean, it has, and the aftermarket support for the SS series is like unmatched.
Yeah.
I mean, there was most of in my opinion, a lot of the kayak accessory companies based a lot of their designs and stuff off of this boat.
Yes.
I mean, you're looking at Yak Attack, for instance, just half of their stuff they make is still based off of the tank well of the SS series. So it's, I mean, that alone right there. I mean, you have your power pole rig to the left, you have stern mount, bow mount, and plus everything you could ever imagine bringing with you.
100 amp hour battery on the back, a dual fish finders, got a live scope on there, got, that's back when I had Garmin's, and then, XI3 on the front, room for 12 rods. I think that's how many I had rigged up that day. I can't remember, but I change all the time how many rods are on there. A lot of upgrades, a lot of modifications on that kayak. But again, I would sit side saddle and fish all day long. The game warden used to sit on the bank with his binoculars and just watch me, and I'd get a text from him because I'm sitting there leaning and slouching, just dragging a worm as slow as you can drag it, and he's like, "Man, are you sleeping or are you fishing?" I'd always get that dang text, and just really, really comfortable to fish out of for hours and hours and hours. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And like you can see there, it's just very customizable. And you know, a lot of these companies have built all these things to go around this boat because I think that this is the one that really pushed the envelope for power. You know, for motors and stuff. It was not built for motors. It handles motors great. That's why we built the PWR, is because we wanted one that was everything that was wrong with this one became the PWR as far as motors go. Because again, this one wasn't built for motors, but this is a very good, serious tournament angler's kayak.
You know, it really surprises me to hear you say that it wasn't built for motors, because I felt like it was like one of the first ones to me in my mind that took motors into a bigger account into the boat. Straight from the beginning, because it seems like up until that point, it was always like an afterthought, an add-on. Yep. You had to have a plate. You had to have some type of adapter.
Yeah, but it was designed before that point. You know, before we got to that point, it was those of us who were figuring out how to put motors on it. The first time I ever put a motor on it, I had to build the plate myself. Nobody made a plate. I had to shimmy, and I got to shim everything up and things like that. We made motors work for that kayak. We didn't make that kayak work for motors.
Interesting.
So what's the what's the niche for a person that buys a 127 over a PWR now, or one of the other kayaks? I see there's only 4 colors. Does that mean it's kind of out the door? And
well, we knew that the PWR was going to eat a lot of the market share, take a lot of the market share from the SS.
Yeah.
The SS still has a place because some people want one that you don't put a motor on, or you can put a motor on and just keep it a little less expensive, a little, you know. And for me, I still have mine. I'm going to do a giveaway this next year to get rid of it, but it's just, you know, it's the OG, and there's a place for it for certain people. For me, it's not anymore because PWR is my love. So.
Yeah. How I look at the SS, like the 127, I've always called it like the grow with you boat. So you can get this and paddle it straight away and be fine. It's a great boat for that, but you can grow with this boat. Like it's not you need to throw a motor on it. You need to, you know, rig it out for tournaments. Like this can be just your fun fishing boat. You can go out and just paddle it, or if you want to do that, it can grow with you. You can throw whatever you want at it, and it'll take it. It's kind of that do everything boat that's a little bit bigger. It's got more room. But yeah, I've always called it the grow with you boat. Maybe you have a budget of, you know, you can stretch $1649 now and you can't get a motor for 2 years or a year. Like everyone's different. So this is something you can enjoy without throwing a motor on. Like since
it's a really good big boy boat.
Yeah. Living proof. What's the difference in the plastic that Bonafide uses? Because it really it's almost like an oily plastic, and it feels like their plastic that they use, and maybe I just haven't been around newer ones because I know what Big Adventures is making them now.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the plastic in the SS 127 I had was so much different than any other boat I've ever owned. Like it was a different, I don't know, a different kind of plastic. I don't know.
I'm not too familiar with that. I do know that the same plastic is used, of course, for the natives, but it's also for the same plastic for gosh, what's the unlimited? The new canoes.
New canoes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
So
I had a Native Titan 12 too, and like that plastic it seemed like it was harder, more like a Jackson. Is a little bit
that
harder.
has more to do with the mold than it does the plastic. You get a little bit thicker plastic in certain places and stuff like that. It's going to feel different. Definitely is.
Yep.
Well, let's move on to the next one. We have the P127, and that's the one that you can pedal. It's got the propel drive from Native once they combined. I'll go over the stats here. Probably past them. 12'7", just like the 127, 34 inches wide, 15 and a half inches depth. The shot weight, what's shot weight?
That's the amount of
100
plastic.
Oh, okay. And
Yep.
fitted hull with everything on it's 120 and capacity 475. So what does everybody need to know about the P127?
So this is the only one in a Bonafide that Hans did not design. This was just before Hans came back to Bonafide Kayak. So it has a lot of native stuff. It's got the native propel drive. It is got a lot of things similar to the SS127. And it was their attempt to have a pedal drive because that's what the market wanted. And so it's got a foot steering, or it's got hand steering. It's got really nice rudder in the back, and then the propel drive is it is a bulletproof drive.
Indestructible.
Yeah, the prop is destructible, but the drive itself is not.
Oh yeah, I'm about to say. So when I had my P127, I broke like 2 props, but that's because I'm stupid. But the drive itself it's just like he said, it's bulletproof. That propel drive is time tested to the point where I was talking to Anna. Gene, knows who Anna is, but she works for Bonafide. We were at a show, and this was earlier this month, talking to her. I think either their dad or father-in-law, somebody along those lines, has a old propel drive, like one of the first gens. And he was talking to her and is like, yeah, my drive's just feels a little stiff, a little wobbly. She's like, well, have you been servicing it? And he's like, you have to service it. That drive was 11 years old. I'm not saying for everyone out there, you need to service the drive like yearly, but he never did. And it was fine. He's like, yeah, the pedals are a little loose. She's like, oh, you just got to tighten them up. And like, have you oiled it? No, it still feels fine. It's super quiet. I mean, it's a creep drive, man. And you want to sneak up on something, that thing will creep you right on it. You won't feel it. You won't hear it. I've ran it into so many rocks and submerged logs. The drive was fine. The prop didn't survive a couple times, but that was about it. But yeah, I mean, it's great little pedal drive boat.
And if somebody wants to motorize this one, put one on the back. Don't put one on the front. The way it's weighted and the way where the seat is and things like that. If you put that kind of weight up front, it's going to go nose down, and you're going to lose a lot of your efficiency from that.
Yeah, I would say it's doable, but yeah, it's not. I mean, it's
you can see Chad Hoover's video on it.
Yep, I'm about to say, he went in depth with it. It's definitely recommended to do a stern drive, and if you, do it that way, and then how I always explain it is put, a Torpedo or a Newport on the rear end of it just to get you to where you're going, and then you have your pedal drive for your spot lock. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And you get a little workout when you're doing it, so it works out.
Yeah,
$3,000, man. Yeah, that's a good price for a pedal drive kayak too.
Yep. I had one. I ended up selling it. I told him before I got it that I have a bad hip thanks to the United States Army, and I can't pedal like this. I've tried. I tried it when we were testing out the Jackson the Jackson drive and the whole 9 yards. And if I pedal even a mile, I'm out for a week trying to get healed. And so I got it out. I took it a quarter of a mile away during a Monday night tournament, dropped the anchor and sat there and fished. Caught a 24.5 inch that day, but
it worked out.
And fished, and then pedaled back to the ramp and put it on the trailer and ended up selling it. So
I didn't say it before, but thank y'all both for your service. Should have said that earlier.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so great kayak, real dependable native drive. I mean, the propel drive. Now they have the grass thing in between the drive and the propeller. They've got bicycle pedals, so they've upgraded over the years. The rudder. I mean, it's the SS1, same seat as the SS127, which is really, super comfortable. It's all tried and true stuff that, the few things that they brought over from native, they've been around forever that are going to work. So it's
Yeah.
not a kayak you're going to have to worry about.
And just to add a little emphasis, this is probably one of the top pedal drives on the market. There are so many pedal drives that are coming out, new ones and stuff, and that aren't of this quality, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not to put anyone else's product down, but to put the emphasis on the quality that this native drive does have. I mean, it's literally it's the only other pedal drive that I would consider using.
Yeah.
And for people who are looking at pedal drives, when you test ride a pedal drive, one of the biggest things one of the things I always tell people is listen to it.
Yeah.
Hear it.
Yep.
Because if you can hear it and you can hear it loud, there's something going to go wrong with that drive.
Yeah.
Just by design, that's friction. That's something that doesn't need to be there. You know, I can't remember. I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to call anybody out. But I remember when when everybody was starting to get pedal drives. Kurt, you might have been there with me because it was at Caddo on at one of the KBF events, and I heard a motorized one from across the way where they had taken and put a motor on the pedal drive, and you could hear that thing from a half a mile away, and I'm like, what in the world is that?
Your drive is not supposed to sound like a pepper grinder.
Exactly.
No.
So yeah, when you guys are, when people are testing those out, just listen to them, and that's a big giveaway on whether it's good quality, whether it's going to last you a long time. You know,
A pedal drive is only as good as a drive, and really,
Yep.
maybe there's some other ones. I don't know much about the new Canoe one, the pivot drive. So I won't say anything about that. But
right.
really, to get a Propel drive, the Old Town drive, or a Hobie Mirage drive, in my mind, are the three that if I were going to tell somebody, "Oh, you want a pedal drive?" that's the three I would steer them to. And not that, nothing wrong with the new Canoe one. The great thing about that is you can have the motor on the front and the thing on the back. So I mean, no shade on that. I'm sure that was perfectly
not at all.
good. Yep. Cool. All right. So P127. Now we got one of the newer ones, the RVR. It is.
Take it away, Matt.
I love it. He already knows.
RVR 119, 11 foot 9 inches, 35 inches wide, 85-inch weight, and which is a great if you want a riverboat, stand 85 pounds around there. That's the right number. 425 pound capacity, so you can still load it down. And it is $1,700. So, all right, Matt, what you got?
So easily, like, I love my PWR, but I'm a river rat at the end of the day. I'm Wet Boy Nation. It's up, Cheegan out there if you're listening. Do this boat, whether you motorize it, like mine's motorized, but if you don't, it paddles amazing. It's super light. I mean, at 85 pounds, but at 85 pounds, it's still got enough, but since I'm not on my show, I'm not gonna say anything. I know how, Armando gets sometimes. It's got enough rear end on it to, take a beating. I mean, you can throw this in. It's got like you can see in that picture, the side profile, the skeg down. And then on the right-hand side, you can flip that up and down for, to assist in tracking. It's got kind of like the RS to where it has those little points that go up in the front, the bow, and the stern to where it turns on a dime without even a little bit better with the RS. But you get, in my opinion, almost SS quality stability with it.
Wow,
and you
really?
can walk up I walked to the front. I've walked to the back. I've stepped over the seat. I mean, it's obviously not an SS, but I didn't feel uncomfortable doing it. I mean, I'm, 240, 6'2", so it was fine. Comfortable seat. It's got access underneath the seat for extra storage. I mean, at one point I rigged this like my RS minus the front motor. Like I brought 11 rods with me it was just to see if I could do it. It's not something I like to do on the river anymore, but huge tank well, easy to rig. I have an NK300 on this on the rear end with the Bonafide plate. Wow. And I ran the wires from that rear plate all the way to the front plate, and I have a 36 volt lithium ion in the front, and it still handles like a dream. It's quick. Removable dry pod, so again, electronics is a breeze, and it is easy to set up for like your foot steering. Plenty of track space, integrated Anchor Wizard ports on both sides that actually have tubes already in the mold to go to the front, which you can see on the front. There's that little anchor roller. So it doesn't have to worry about eating into your plastic. I don't know if anybody's run anchors off the front end, and enough time running paracord up and down, you'll start eating into it. So it has that roller to help that, and it helps it go down faster, come up quicker. And then to the rear end on the other side, it goes back to where you could throw an anchor chain if you want. A lot of river guys love using chains. I'm not one of those guys. I used it one time and it got stuck and I thought I was going to die. So I'm not a huge fan of chains, but I mean, it's in my opinion, I've been in all the other river boats. It's the best river boat I've ever been in. Plus I've taken it on big water. I mean, I had it at Dale Hollow and, I was taking that all over the place, like in the middle of Dale Hollow, which I was scared for other reasons. There's a boat tournament going on and they didn't care. But anyway,
They don't care one bit.
no, yeah, I was just in the middle and they were just ripping. But I mean, it handled it fine. I felt comfortable the whole time, and it's a dream of a boat. Like I love my PWR, but my RVR, if I could only have one boat, that'd be it.
I love the place for the board there. That's really nice.
Yep. I'm about to say you have your drop-in board so you can keep it there. It's easy especially for tournaments when you can have your board there. It's a little bit below the top of the deck, which what I will tell everybody, still use a net just in case because stuff happens. But yeah, it has that drop in there. Plus it has a little cut in under the seat to where you can put it to where you can have your catch board upside down under the seat and it runs up to the pod. So again, if you don't want it across at all times, you want to, use foot steering like I do, it doesn't sit there. It sits right underneath there and it's got a place. This boat has a place for everything.
Yes.
So
Hans is a river rat.
Yep.
I mean, this is Hans Newt's dream kayak. And so he started designing this thing 9 years ago, something like that. And I've talked to him about it a lot over the years. But, the strap up front is strong enough to be a handle. There's a handle behind the seat. For some weird reason, there's one directly behind the seat. Well, you don't know that reason until you've got to drag your kayak over rocks while you're trying to get from one shoal to the next going upstream. And you realize why that handle is there. It's just, it drains, to the rear. So it drains to underneath your seat. So if you take on a big wave up front, all that water rushes under your seat, which levels out your stability and keeps you upright, and it drains out of the scupper holes under your seat. It's one of those kayaks that was designed to overcome the oh crap moments. And
yeah, I mean, just not having a hatch. I mean, you have whole access with the two plates in the front and back, but you don't have a hatch for water to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we've all been there when we're running rapids, especially class 2s and class 3s, and you realize you're on the wrong side, or you've got to make a real quick adjustment. This one does it. You pop that skeg up and you can turn it on a dime. You can maneuver through stuff, and then when it's time to spin out and fish that eddy, you drop that skeg and you spin out and you're sitting there and you're fishing.
Yeah. What's this? So you have your primary, secondary, and tertiary stability in a boat like this. I don't know if I know Dan has seen it for a fact. Gene, I think you liked it too when I flipped mine. It's mostly because I was stupid. So I put like 6-inch risers on my seat just to test it. They're off now. But before I had, like, even now when I have them off, I mean, you have to try. Like, you have to force this boat to tip. It doesn't want to. It wants to keep you. I mean, I've had it to where I was at like a 45-degree angle trying to just see how far I can go, and I could sit there and like teeter it. I've gone through, riffles and under strainers and whatnot to where I thought I was going to get, kind of ripped up, and I was like, I'm going to flip. It just turned me and I went down. I mean, I remember one time I went down sideways. Like if I had hit a rock, different story, but the boat I didn't really feel at any point like I was going to fall out. It's a great overall river bat.
My favorite video was the one where Jeff Little took it out. Him and Hans took it out, and he tried to turn it, tried to flip it, and he reached that point of no return and was able to save it. To just talk to him about it, his eyes light up, and he's like, he told me, I'll quote him. He says, "There's something special about this boat."
Oh yeah.
And him. He doesn't have an opinion. He's not going to say that it's the best one in the world. He just flat looked at me and said, "There's just something special," So.
I mean, it's great. It's got the plate for your throttle for your Torpedo or Newport.
Mhm.
It's got two plates for your front and back if you want to run two anchor wizards. I mean, like everything Bonafide does. It's super well thought out.
I would
So
say
well.
one thing about river boats when you're rigging them is a lot of times they're like this, like the RS, for example. It doesn't have a front plate, but it's got the rear plate, and you can throw a yak attack through haul at the front or whatever else. But with like this boat, you see the front plates, that larger plate in the middle is actually hollow to the hull. So it makes it so much easier running wire because you have access to the middle of the boat there.
Mm.
Like that's a little feature a lot of people don't think they want, especially when, like for instance, when I did foot steering on this, that was so helpful running the
That's
tubing.
that's a plate right there.
No, to
The one
the
right
right,
to the right of the seat.
right of the seat, the
Oh,
bigger
okay.
one. Yep.
Okay.
So that's hollow into there. So it also makes that skeg serviceable. Like for mine, I trailer all my boats. One thing I noticed trailering this boat, that skeg handle, there's a nut on the backside. And after a year and a half, it just loosened up from, being on the road and everything. And it was super easy to just pop in, 6 screws, and I have access to it and fix it. Running my foot steering lines, not even really an issue just because I had access to the middle of the boat. Same thing with running power. I could get to that and then shoot it to the front. It's little stuff like that Hans put into this boat that you never really thought you wanted. But now that you have, it's like the next boat. Like I'm not even looking at river boats unless Hans has an RVR2, which I talked to him. He said he doesn't. So, but unless there's an RVR2 coming, I'm not going to upgrade the boat for the rivers just because this has stuff that no one else really has that I'll miss from not having it.
Matt, do you put a stern motor on yours?
Yeah, I've got a NK300 on the back end of it. I had a 180, which was fine, but I just want to hit 8 miles an hour. So,
Wow.
And
Is
it
that how
was
fast it
designed
goes?
to have a
8?
stern mount. So
I loved it to the point to where, and that stern mounts on. I mean, my Newport was on there nonstop. Once I put it on with foot control, I mean, up river, down river, it didn't matter. The only time it would come up is if I'm going through super shallow. Which another cool thing is, I mean, the shallowest I think I've taken this up to, I can't remember what the draft is, like what they actually say the draft is. The shallowest I've had it in is like 3.5 inches. I mean, I might have been touching rocks, but I didn't stop. And again, 240, 6.2, like it was fine. So
I imagine like with all the volume in the bow and everything, it does look like it would draft super shallow.
oh yeah, dude, it's awesome. Like I said, if I couldn't have any other boat and I was stuck with one, this would be the one. Because like I said, taking a big water, it handled fine, and rivers, I've never been in a boat that handles better. So
Cool. Well, I don't want to keep y'all here for too long. Got 3 more. Next up is the SKF 117.
Gene, this is all you because I have
Okay.
not been in. I've demoed it. I can say it paddles awesome and it's super stable. That's about it. I went about 150 feet upriver and 150 down. So that's it.
It's a 11 feet 7 inches, 34.5 inches wide, 9.5 inch depth, so super shallow. 425-pound capacity still, super light, 69 pounds without the seat, and 78 width, which is still super light. It really reminds me. It looks like, I'm sorry to say this, a better. I had a Diablo Amigo. It looks like a better version of that.
yeah. You think of it as a paddleboard and a kayak had a baby, but it drafts like 1.5 inches. I tell you what, we thought it was going to be a niche market. Okay, we thought it was going to be those inshore guys, so on and so forth. That son of a gun is an amazing creek boat.
Oh
If
yeah.
you've got to get up into little bitty skinny water creeks, and I've got a ton of them around my house, it gets there. You can put a motor on the back if you want to. It paddles like a dream. It is, if you're one of those guys who love to go out and fish inshore down in Louisiana where you've got to get back in the back of some skinny stuff, it'll do it. I mean, it's just a fun little boat. The only thing I don't like about it personally is I'd like to have the seat higher for me, just because of my back and my hips. But that's it. I mean, that's a personal thing. But you can turn around on it. You can walk on it. It's got enough storage for what you're going to do with a boat that size, and with that, and that skeg is money when you're fishing creeks and rivers. But yeah, it's just a fun little boat. It's one that you'd want to give your wife to paddle around while you're fishing, and she can go out and have some fun and things like that.
Lay out and tan.
Yeah, the anti-divorce boat.
Yeah, it's literally, so my wife, when she saw it, just because when we, like, to go off what Gene said earlier, like, they thought it was going to be like that real niche redfish kind of creeping boat. And I remember in the team meeting when right before it was announced, obviously we're talking about it and stuff. And I think I remember saying, because Gene had said something, I was like, dude, that's going to be a creek fisherman's dream. Like, that's what they're going to want to fish in, because it's super quiet, drafts, it's comfortable. But my wife, when she saw it, because I showed her, I was like, yeah, new boat's coming out, no one tell that anyway. I told my wife 2 days before I cast, but anyway, I showed it to her. She's like, I could take the seat off that suntan. I was like, you could. We should get you one. So she's like, I could just lay on it and then paddle it like a paddleboard, right? I was like, yeah, you 100% could. It's literally kind of the best of both worlds. And this is one of those boats. I don't know if anybody else has this experience. This is one of those boats. You said 78 pounds with the seat. It does not feel like 78 pounds with the seat. It feels like 40. It's one of those boats that is so much lighter than it or feels so much lighter than it is. Like, it's super simple. I mean, this is a boat I've turned on its, like a paddleboard and just carried it back to a truck after a show, and you don't even realize it's a kayak. So,
and it's still rotomolded?
Still rotomolded.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, we'll keep moving here since we're short on time. Next, we have the PWR 129. So this is kind of the motorized version of the SS 127, the big daddy. Well, until I cast, it's 12 foot 9 inches, 35 inches wide, 16-inch depth, max capacity 500 pounds, and the rigged weight is 102 pounds. So getting up into the big tournament boats that you're going to totally rig out with the motors and everything else. Tell us about this one.
So,
Gene, if you can go ahead.
Yeah, I will. It's my baby. So a couple of years ago, I went to Hans and I was like, "Look, man, we have got to do a motorboat. That's where the world's going to. We've got to do one that's made for motors." And we took a lot of the things that needed to be upgraded from the SS and put into this boat. But by the time we were finished with it and it was going, we were getting the mold made, we realized that it is nothing like the SS. It is. It's not a SS 2.0. It is its own boat. It's so different that you have to use a different type of mold to mold it. And so what we did is we made it to where you could rig it without drilling holes in the boat, or a minimal amount of holes in the boat, which is something that I was really animate about. And so Hans designed those plates to be able to go on there. They ended up on the native first because they came out with theirs first, and they talk. So, but these plates were originally my idea, and I'm kind of a little sore about it coming out on the native first, but it is what it is.
Great for not only rigging but reselling too, because I know I'm always worried about putting a bunch of holes in a boat because then I can't sell it.
Yeah, and a new plate is only $15. So if you screw up a hole, you just get a new plate and throw it on there. Yep. And so you have two up front, you have two under the seat, and you have one in the back. Makes fishing your wire through really easy, really easy. And then you have places for switches, you have places for plugs, you have places for everything, and you're still not drilling a hole in the boat. I drilled one hole in my boat. I'll give you for instance. The first time me and Fletch at Westbrook rigged up my 127, we've drilled 86 holes in that boat. Ooh, to get it to rig, motors and everything else. Now I'm drilling one hole, and that's for the pull line to be able to deploy and stow my my XI3. So now, if you look at it carefully up front, there's really deep grooves that run along the plate, or where you mount your motor, and the same in the back, and that's where you get your stability to be able to handle those heavy motors and be able to have a lot of shock absorption. There are a ton of inserts in this boat, and each insert correct me if I'm wrong, has like 100 and something pounds worth of pressure you can put on those inserts before they pop out. Or 90 something pounds. It's a lot anyway. And so you have inserts everywhere. You have a delete plate that goes where the pod is if you don't want the pod. There's just a ton of different things you can do to it. But what I love it for is that you can put everything. I can put everything on it and still get a ton of speed. The increase in efficiency from the SS to this was 20%, and it's been 20% for me and 20% for other people. And when I start asking around, everybody has an increase in speed of about 20%. And then you've got foot steering, and my idea with the foot steering was be able to put that whatever motor you put on the front, set it straight, and be able to steer with your feet and cast and fish. And for me, it was, we are now able to be more efficient on the water than a Hobie, is what my idea was my thought was being able to cast and move and maneuver at the same time. The more casts you get in a day, the more fish you catch. And so, and right now I'm testing out a new aftermarket rudder that's really, really good, but that it is good. So,
And just not having to fumble around with your XI3, necklace there, and just being able to use the foot control. I mean, that's like totally, a lot of people say, oh, it's bow mounted, it's hands free, but until you can do what you're saying, it's not really hands free.
Exactly.
As someone who's used the XI3 and really, really trusted heading lock, you find out that you can't really, really trust heading lock because the wrong cloud's going to move over and you're going to get, especially going fast, you're going to get shot in the wrong direction. So yeah, adding that rudder, man, I use that nonstop, especially this 2 weeks ago, I was fishing an undisclosed area for anyone who comes from the catch, trying to find out where me and Brad go. Undisclosed area that had a submerged point that I literally just, I set it on a little bit lower speed. And it was like up there. It's fishing is a game of statistics. Like you just have to cast nonstop because the fish will just go everywhere and it's 67 feet deep. So unless you have live scope, you're kind of searching. And just being able to just barely do toe taps, just kind of push me around objects so I can really fish and not have to worry about anything. I mean, just that little thing alone sells it. But the fact that you can throw your sidekicks on the rear end of it, so it's easier to move because it gets to be a heavier boat if you don't wet launch it. The power plates everywhere make rigging it without even trying. Like my boat's rigged up with 2 finders, XI3. I'm putting an NK 180 on the rear end, but I've had to drill 0 holes. I drilled 1 in the hatch, but nothing in the actual body of the boat. I need to do the lift line thing, Gene. I'm going to get with you because I haven't figured out how to do it yet. So I'm going to let you. I'm going to send you a message. But it got to the point like me and Brad rig them for the shop. When someone buys a PWR, we've probably done 7 or 8 this year already, and with a Newport in the back or a Torpedo in the rear. Torpedo's a little different. With the Newport, we run the battery to the front. We can get that completely rigged up with that motor in about, I think the fastest we did it after the first one was about 25 minutes, I think 20 to 30 minutes tops. And that's because we're being stupid half the time. Like we're just screwing around. It makes rigging it so easy. And the amount of track room, I have empty track for like the first time because there's so much tracks that I don't know what to do with it. And already the aftermarket support for this boat's unmatched. I mean,
and that's a key point, is that he put enough inserts around there, not for himself, it was for aftermarket parts.
Yep.
And so he had those guys that are making this stuff in their garage in mind when he was designing this and throwing inserts in there.
That man, so many people, especially if you're just now getting into kayak fishing, having support, a Facebook group, a page where you can go, people are making products for it. It's such a big deal because some of the kayaks you get, and it's like nobody has ever done it before, and you got to figure it all out. But this kayak, you can go online, find out exactly the right way to do it before you do anything.
Yeah. One thing we didn't touch on is stability. Dude, when I get off this boat, I pull it up next to the dock. I stand up. I step off the boat onto the dock. I put all my weight on one side. And this was even back when I was 70 pounds heavier back at Christmas time. Step right off onto the dock and don't even worry about it tipping over or getting too tippy. It's got It's a little. It's because of the rocker in it. You see the 3 inches or the 6 inches of rocker, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. It's a little shaky in the top, but once it hits that secondary stability, it doesn't go anywhere, and it will not reach that point of no return until the water gets halfway up the handle. See the black handle on the side?
Yeah.
The water line has to get up to halfway up that handle before it tips over.
Wow.
That's almost a 45-degree angle. Nuts.
It's very rare that when you talk about stability, the SS series is always in people's minds, like all the time. It's always in one of the most stable boats. This to me is more stable than that, without a question. The SS was super stable. This one is so stable that, like, the other day, I dropped a bag of plastic, some Z-Man chatter spikes behind my black pack, and I really wanted that color, and I'm dumb and only brought one pack of black and blue because I'm stupid. And I literally put my seat down, climbed over, and I stood. There's basically two before you get in the tank well. I keep pointing. I do that on my show too. I'm dumb. No one can see me pointing. But anyway, there's two raised, like, they're not platforms, but there's two raised spots right before you get to the tank well. I literally stood there and bent over, put my weight on my black pack at the back of the kayak and reached behind it back where that rudder is, and got that thing. And then I stood right back up and walked right back to the front.
Yeah.
And I felt fine the whole time. My XI3, because I don't have a good way to, deploy and pull the foot pedal up, I've at some points had to walk to the front where I have my captain's bridge on those two angled pieces of track, and walk up there and lean over and press the release so I can pull my motor up and it's fine.
I've got a rod holder on that back gear track, the one that's all the way in the back.
Yeah.
That's where I put my spinning rods in timeout back there, and I can get back there and get them.
So, Gene, I'm curious, how fast do you get that boat with your 1103?
I don't have an 1103. I have the P120 or the XI3. And so I get 4.5 miles an hour. I went from 3.7, 3.8 to 4.5 with everything being the same. Is what I did. I'm waiting on a Newport. Should be getting one in the next few months, but I haven't pushed that hardly any. There's guys getting 6 that are similar to my size and similar rigging, 6 to 6.5 with 1103 on the back.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fast. That's a lot faster than I can get the SS.
On a kayak, that's fast.
Yeah. I've got a buddy with the NK300 in the back of his PWR, and he completely de-rigged just the motor and the battery in the front, and he touched 6.9 to 7.1. He was right in there, and he was like, I don't even want to put anything on it because I'm so fast. I was like, and then he rigged it all the way out and went it, and he was touching 6.2 to 6.5. Yeah. So and he was ripping.
The hole's quiet. It's just, everything that. It's just the upgrades and everything that we did, comparing it to the SS 127 has just been a fun ride, but fun to see it come together. Now I'm going to have a video out in the next few weeks about an aluminum rudder that I'm testing out right now, and it is a huge upgrade from a plastic rudder, tracking and steering and everything else. So you'll see.
Do I know the company?
I don't think so. They don't.
Oh, really? Okay.
Stuff. Yep.
Oh,
is it gonna be like mass produced? Because that's the only.
It's already on their website.
But didn't text me after, so I know what it is. That's the only. So that's my only gripe. Like the rudder's good. So it's the same rudder that came from like the P. You see it on natives.
Yeah.
It's not a bad rudder by any means.
But it's plastic, so
it's plastic. Yes.
And so if you got your motor going full speed and you want to stay straight, you've got to feather it back and forth, because if you go this way a little bit, it flexes. If it goes this way, it flexes.
Yep.
Just enough to make it to where it won't track straight 100% of the time. This aluminum one, literally, I can go for 2 miles, and I went 1.5 miles to get back to the boat ramp straight today and didn't even touch anything. So fell asleep twice.
Yeah, I have a Boondocks one. I have a Boondocks metal rudder on my Hobie, and I love it.
Yep, and he makes them for the natives as well, for the guys that own natives.
Gotcha. So. All right, well, that's the big tournament rig. We got one more to talk about. The XTR 130. I'll go over the stats here. It is
Gene, it's going to be 100%. You, I was part. I helped a little bit, but I haven't been in it yet. So,
All right.
$2,900, 12 foot 7, 40 and a half inches wide, 15-inch depth, 155 pounds fitted, 170 fully rigged, and 730-pound capacity.
Unbelievable capacity
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a kayak. I mean, that's like really, really high capacity.
First,
Yeah,
what are you going to go this route over the PWR?
No. I'm going to have one. I'm going to use it a lot. It's going to be my sight fishing. It's going to be my inshore boat. There's a few things that I'm going to invent to make it work for the way I fish. I'm not going to expand on that because I may end up marketing it. But there's some issues because of the way I fish that I'm going to have with electronics and where things are mounted and things like that I'm going to have to work through before I'm able to do it. Other than that, dude, it's a phenomenal boat. I mean, many of you guys saw the video of me and Chad in the daggum thing at the same time. You know, I wanted to toss him so bad that day in that video. Oh, he had Austin's microphone on. Had he not had Austin's microphone on, that son was going swimming. Because he was a little bit more unstable than I was on that thing. So to start off with, though, it is very similar in size to the Titan X. It's a half an inch narrower, and it's an inch longer, something like that. It's not much longer.
Yeah, about an inch.
Yep. And so it's very similar in size to the Titan X. It's got an open design, a lot like the Unlimited, which is kind of what it reminded me of. People look at the deck design and say, oh, it's an Unlimited. That deck design is there to add tremendous stability without putting 5 more or 6 to 8 more scuppers in it. Is the reason that deck looks like that. You got all the deep grooves and everything else is to give that deck stability without more scuppers. And so, and then being able to put a second seat on there for your kids or whatnot is a neat little thing. He did that because he could do it, and that was the reason for that design. But what it's designed to do mainly was to be able to stand up and fish, and to be able to run a trolling motor that has your forward-facing sonar attached to the motor and being able to fish from up front. It also gives you a lot of rigging options, but it also makes it to where it's a good, for me, it's going to be a good little getaway boat where I just go for days. You know, I throw my camping gear in there and I go. That front hatch is a tank. It doesn't flex at all, even with Chad's 308 pounds or however big he is now on that front. It didn't flex hardly at all. Got plenty of storage. It's got the sacrificial plates, just like the PWR does, in the right places to be able to add your motors. A 110 or 100 amp hour battery fits perfectly up underneath that hatch. And then you can actually fit one up front, but I wouldn't do that. I'd just leave that one. It's just it's a boat. It's all kayaks are a boat anyway, if you really look at it, but it's just a big vessel. And like I said, but it's still the same size as the Native. So it doesn't strike me as being a John boat or even a bass raider. Just a fun boat to fish out of. I can't wait to get one to see what I can come up with and what I can do with it. I only had about 2 hours worth of seat time in it. So,
I mean, just being able to put your forward-facing sonar on the trolling motor, that's innovative because it's the first one that's ever really been able to do that. Is this one that you would, if you were using XI3, would you foot control it?
Yes. Yep. I actually had them ship me a foot control that I've got to do some modifications to. But their foot control is made. I need to replace the springs. Their springs for me are too stiff, so I'm going to do a little modification to the foot. But yeah, that's kind of what I've got to figure out is how I want to run it that way. Where I'm going to put the foot control, what I'm going to do with it, where I'm going to put the electronics. The transducer mounts to the back. It's got mounting spots, inserts in the back for your transducer, so there's no more pod. There's no through hole transducer mount. It's all in the back. and so
Okay.
that's a little bit different.
When you say the back, do you mean like the back, like a bass boat?
Yep.
Transducer. So okay.
Yep. And so, and you can put one on, you can put it on either side or one on each side. You know, there's a spot both places. It also has inserts back in the back for a future transom mount if you wanted to put, you know, a transom mounted motor on there. So these guys who have these transom mounted trolling motors or whatever, they can just clamp them onto the mount. So you could do that with a future mount or one that maybe somebody aftermarket builds or whatever. So.
Inshore, it seems like it'd be like Bonafide should make a cooler so you could remove the seat and use a cooler in there to sit on it and keep your catch.
It's going to be my my inshore boat is what I think it's going to end up being for me.
That makes a lot of. I've never heard anybody say that, and that makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah, I mean,
and sight fishing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you saw at the show they had the NT 300 on it, which is basically Newport's big tiller motor. They had that on it. It looked like it was like that motor was made for the XTR. Like it looked like it fit perfect. So I mean, you'll see sight fishing is the boat for it. Inshore, this will be that boat for it because you have stability. I mean, you've seen all the videos of, you know, like he said, Chad walking on the front end of it.
So
it's yeah.
The surprising thing for me was it paddles well for the size. So I'm going to burst your bubble, Smitty. It paddles 100 times better than the a Hobie PA because you don't have all that crap in the way. And so if you do get in a pinch and have to get yourself back without battery or whatever else, you can paddle yourself home pretty easy. And
get good to push pole too. Then I guess.
Yeah, you could. Oh heck yeah! You got me wanting to pull my old push pole out of the barn to mess around with it. But yeah, like I said, for me it's going to be inshore and a sight fishing boat. At least now that I don't have one, we'll see what happens when I get it and what I end up doing with it. But Fletch already knows I'm getting one sometime mid-September, and he's ready to help me rig it up. So we're gonna have fun with it.
Well, I see now. I didn't understand where it went because the PWR to me seemed like the tournament rig, but this to me seems like the saltwater tournament rig.
Yeah. I would imagine it'd be really, really good in big water, in saltwater, Lake Erie, you know, up in the Great Lakes, stuff like that. It'd be one that I would not hesitate to take up there and fish out of.
Yeah,
you know.
a good one. Like have a couple of them in mothership. You know, take a guide out and go mothership down Louisiana or something. Yeah. I see it now. You sold it to me now. But before I wasn't sure. But now, you know, because I'm from Biloxi. I'm from the coast. I grew up inshore fishing, and now it makes sense to me.
Yeah, if I lived anywhere close to Louisiana Delta, I'd never catch another largemouth again in my life. So,
yeah, I could see us down in Delacroix like tomorrow. Yeah,
yes.
And duck hunting too. It'd be a good duck hunting boat too.
So that's how I looked at it. Like, so my PWR, I got it for big water, but I got it in camo because I'm going to duck hunt out of it. But then this came out, and I was talking to a buddy, and I was like, dude, we could duck hunt out of that.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, I can see a lot of duck hunters buying this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But Bonafide's going to be making a blind for it here for long.
I wouldn't doubt that.
That would be the smart thing to do, because I was literally getting ready to say people are going to already have blinds for this made. I mean, I homemake my blind every year for whatever kayak I'm going to be in, and this would just be like building a one of those stealth duck boat blinds. It's really easy to do, and it'll just fit it perfectly. And you have so much room for decoys and everything else. It's gonna be nice.
Yep, and you can put your dog on there and not have to worry about it.
That's right. Yep. I get it. The XTR has a place. Okay. Awesome. Well, we appreciate y'all. We don't want to keep you any longer. We've already kept you over an hour. Want to give you a chance to shout out anybody you want to, any of your channels where people can find you, all that good stuff. Matt, go ahead, man.
I'm on Instagram, Matt Sowders Fishing. That's pretty much same through everything. I don't do the TikToks or anything, but co-host of the Catch podcast. Come on by, take a listen. Yeah, man. I just really appreciate you having me on again, Dan. I feel like I've been on kind of often. We need to get you on our show now.
Yeah,
Kinda
anytime, man.
run through a little bit. But yeah, man, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Gene, how about you?
You can find me Fluke Master just about anywhere. I am on TikTok. I actually started doing live streams from my kayak on TikTok last week. Whenever I'm on the water and have a decent signal, I'm going to try to do it 4 hours at least, where it's a Q&A with me out there fishing, so I can reach back, grab tackle, and explain things and show electronics and do all kinds of cool things with that stuff, and it's going to happen, every day I can, as a matter of fact. So that's a new thing. YouTube's still doing really good. You can find me on YouTube pretty easy. I'm always wearing this amazing, beautiful, gorgeous red Georgia Bulldog hat. Go Dogs. And
War Eagle.
how many more days we got?
I got 14.
Yeah, 14 more days before their first game. They're going to beat Clemson, and I'm sitting here in South Carolina in Clemson country right now, which is great. But yeah, my goal in life, my calling is teaching people how to fish. You guys know I've been doing it for a long time, but I figured out my little niche in the fishing community, and I really feel like I am the one that spearheaded the instructional fishing world the way we see it now. Because when I started, everybody had stopped. Bill Dance wasn't doing it anymore. They were just trying to sell product.
Yep.
And so I started doing this, and by accident, it became a thing. And I'm the YouTuber that never quit. And you'll see me here till they dig a hole and put me in the ground. But yeah, it's been great to be able to become good friends with people like Kurt and be able to just, do what I love. And I'm one of the few people, I guess, have figured out how to actually fish for a living instead of just be part of the fishing industry, which is great. So
Yeah. It's hard to do.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate y'all. Thank y'all, everybody, for listening. Go check out Bonafide Kayaks. There's dealers all over the country. I'm sure on their website there's a dealer locator. There's a great one here in Georgia that Gene's associated with, Westbrook Supply, one of the best one of the best paddle shops in the country. So appreciate y'all being on, and we'll see y'all again on the next one. Later.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
See you.